Hello, I'm Leisha Grabinski with Blue Sky. If you've done any spring cleaning, you may have clothes that either no longer fit or are no longer fit to wear. But what do you do with them? The ones with life in them, sure, you can donate. But what about the other stuff? Today we're going to hear from a number of local people who are giving new life to worn textiles. This helps keep them out of the landfill. What are you doing to try and keep clothes out of the landfill? Are you a thrifter? Are you finding new uses for old clothes? Give us a call, 1-800-716-2221, or email bluesky@cbc.ca. But first, here's David Shield with the CBC News.
Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon. Months of contract negotiations between teachers and the Saskatchewan government have come to a head. Teachers will be voting on what's being described as the government's final offer. It includes a 3% salary increase over the next 2 years and a 2% increase in the final year of the proposed agreement. Saskatchewan Teachers Federation President Samantha Beacott says the union is staying neutral on whether teachers should ratify or not, but was unhappy with how negotiations went.
We didn't want to go and sit at a table and hear for another 2 days, as we had previously experienced. Unfortunately, that is a majority of what occurred at the bargaining table.
The agreement also references a framework around classroom size and complexity. Teachers will vote on the contract proposal on May 8th and 9th. The jury is now deliberating at a coroner's inquest underway in Moose Jaw. It's looking into how a man died in police custody about 3 years ago. Alexander Kwan brings us the latest, and a note: some listeners may find the details in this story disturbing.
This week, the inquest heard Jeremy Sabrin was 40 years old in October 2021 when he was arrested by RCMP on a warrant for sexual assault. He was later handed over to Moose Jaw Police. The jury heard RCMP search Sabrin several times, but never with a metal detector, and Moose Jaw Police didn't check him over, despite policy requiring them to do so. That meant no one detected the small revolver Sabrin had concealed in a thigh holster. Sabrin later used the gun to shoot and kill himself. Much of the testimony has fixated on how Sabrin was able to smuggle the gun into the cells and why police didn't follow protocol. The jury has heard no RCMP officers were disciplined in connection with Sabrin's death, while a Moose Jaw police officer who failed to search Sabrin was demoted. He went from staff sergeant to the lowest rank of constable. The 6-person panel is now deliberating on how Sabrin died. They are also tasked with making recommendations on how to prevent similar deaths in the future. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Moose Jaw.
A Regina court heard the closing arguments for an abduction trial involving a Caravale man. Michael Gordon Jackson allegedly failed to return his 7-year-old daughter to the care of her mother in 2021. He's pleaded not guilty to abduction in contravention of a custody order. He represented himself over the course of the 2-week trial at Regina's Court of King's Bench. Today, Jackson told the jury that he never intended to deprive the mother of possession of their daughter. He said his only intention was to prevent her from getting the COVID-19 vaccine, which he deemed to be dangerous. The Crown then addressed the jury, stating that under the custody agreement, Jackson did not have medical decision power, but was expected to communicate his thoughts on medical matters with the mother. The Crown said he did so, but was not satisfied with the mother's decision, which was to follow provincial guidance around child vaccination. She argued the mother had the ultimate decision-making power, and Jackson decided to then take the law into his own hands. The Crown said that Jackson's goal of making sure his daughter didn't get the vaccine meant that he purposely deprived the mother of possession of the girl. The jury is expected to be charged at 9:30 tomorrow morning and begin deliberations. At 3 minutes after 12 o'clock, it's -4 degrees in Regina, -6 degrees in Saskatoon. This is CBC News. It's another snowy spring day across Saskatchewan. Much of the province is expected to get another 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. Saskatoon already got about 15 centimeters yesterday. Terry Lang is a meteorologist with Environment Canada. She says the flurries are set to taper off tonight as the Alaska storm heads east into Manitoba.
because the temperatures have fallen, everything has frozen. So, really watch your driving today. And if you're going out traveling outside of the city, please check the highway hotline before heading out because, we're in winter storm-like conditions.
RCMP are also warning drivers about the poor road conditions today. And from midnight to 8 o'clock this morning alone, Mounties across the province received reports of nearly 70 crashes and 8 other weather-related traffic hazards. RCMP say conditions are especially bad around Saskatoon, including on Highway 11, where there is reduced visibility and snowdrifts. Some nurses in the province are calling out the province for excessively employing travel nurses from outside of the province. 49 emergency room nurses from St. Paul's Hospital in Saskatoon have signed a letter speaking out against the practice. The letter says in-province nurses who are willing to pick up extra shifts are being denied in favor of the out-of-province nurses. Jared Clark is the opposition NDP's rural and remote health critic. He says the government is leaving Saskatchewan nurses stranded to fulfill its contractual obligations to out-of-province nursing agencies.
It's clear from the letter that contract nursing has gone from a fill-in-the-gaps opportunity in the health system to becoming a baked-in, integral part of this tired and out-of-touch government staffing plan.
The Ministry of Health data says the province spent around $60 million last year to employ 242 travel nurses. Health Minister Everett Hindley responded by saying the out-of-province recruitments help reduce service disruptions and recruitment is ongoing. And Leisha, that's the news at 12 o'clock.
David, thank you.
You're welcome.
That is the CBC's David Shield. Let's go now to Ethan. Ethan Williams. Oh, Ethan.
Oh, Leisha.
We're a bit glum in Saskatoon. It's a little bit of a downer. These gray skies, this snow, this winter weather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, well, another day
and creating dangerous situations in some parts of the province too, right, with the roads. So what information do you have for us today?
Yeah, well, surprisingly, I thought the highway hotline was going to be filled with, travel not recommended kind of advisories everywhere here. But there's actually a lot of the roads, of course, are showing winter conditions. But only about 3 roads that I can see at the moment are not recommended for travel. That still includes Highway 123 in kind of northeastern Saskatchewan from the E.B. Campbell Dam to Cumberland House. It's been over 24 hours now that highway has been like that. We have a stretch of Highway 41 between Wakaw and the junction of Highway 20, which is not recommended for travel. And then Highway 376 between Maymont and Arley, all 3 of those roads reporting drifting and kind of slushy snow and reduced visibility. And of course, you heard David mention in the news there that stretch of Highway 11 coming up to kind of just south of Saskatoon, not great conditions there as well. So basically, even if the road isn't recommended for travel, or if it's not or if it doesn't say that it's not recommended for travel, treat it as if it is, because we have a lot of that kind of slushy snow all over the place this morning and heading into this afternoon. And we got a lot more of that overnight, 14.5 centimeters in the Emma Lake area. That puts you over 30 centimeters for a 2-day total there. Prince Albert, another 3 to 5 centimeters. 2-day total of about 15 to 20 centimeters. Saskatoon, you heard about in the news there, around 15 centimeters over the last couple of days. Regina, an area we haven't gotten very much, about maybe a centimeter or 2, but it's been blown around, of course, a lot by those winds, which are creating some visibility challenges. In fact, visibility in both Regina and Saskatoon was just in the last little bit here down to about a kilometer, and that's because interestingly enough, the snow, we kind of have 2 areas of it, one around Saskatoon and one around Regina, where we're seeing that still kind of snowing and blowing right now. But I think heaviest amounts of snow will still be in the snowfall warning area around Hudson Bay and up toward the Cumberland House, Pelican Narrows, and LaRange areas, another 5 to 10 centimeters there. Swift current to around Outlook up to Saskatoon and Humboldt, the Prince Albert, Melfort, Nipawin area, probably another 2 to 4 centimeters there. Rest of the province, just mostly cloudy skies with some periods of light snow, and those winds still gusting up to 60 kilometers an hour at times. Not helping those temperatures, which are below freezing in many parts of the province and may actually stay there for our daytime highs today, making it feel between minus 10 and minus 15 when you factor in that wind. There is some clearing, though, happening, Leisha. Far northern Saskatchewan, Uranium City, Stony Rapids. Sunny there, could get above freezing today. Light winds, high pressure starting to move in, which will clear out the skies there. That's going to move southward over the next couple of days, making it a little less glum, as you say, for a lot of us.
I'm looking at the YouTube stream because we're streaming live on our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube page today, and we just had an image of both cities. Very, very glum. Not typical for us, right, Ethan?
Yeah.
We're a province known for our sunshine, our blue sky. So what is up with Calgary's new slogan, Blue Sky City?
Yes.
What is the name of this show?
Yeah.
I think that's ours.
That's a copyright infringement, right?
I want to, right? We need to follow up on this. I guess, so I'm just going to read a bit of the story that is on our national news page. The new slogan is a nod to Calgary being one of the sunniest cities in Canada, which Tourism Calgary, we could go over that again,
right,
CEO, said reflects an important part of the branding process. That's the thing about any brand. It needs to be true. And for sure, when it comes to sunshine and blue skies, it's true in Calgary. What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, well, you know what? That's true because Environment Canada says, at least as of the end of 2021, Calgary gets about 2,396 hours of sunshine in a year. So that's about 100 days worth of sunshine. But I will point out that same data says Estevan actually gets just over 2,400 hours of sunshine. And even Estevan gets bested by Medicine Hat at over 2,500 hours of sunshine. So Calgary, you're not first on the list. You're not second on the list. You are actually third in terms of sunshine hours. So, okay, fair enough, sunny place in Canada. But yes, there are sunnier, Leisha.
Okay. Well, maybe this debate should continue. I want to hear our listeners weigh in. We're going to be talking about a few things today. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on Calgary getting this new slogan, Blue Sky City. For that, you can call our talkback number, 1-800-661-7540. You could also send us an email to bluesky@cbc.ca. And then we are hoping too, Ethan, that people will stay in touch with us about the roads and what the conditions are like. So you can call our open line for that one, 1-800-716-2221. Ethan, thank you.
You're very welcome.
That is the CBC's Ethan Williams. Right now in Saskatoon, we're sitting at -5, a wind chill making it feel more like -13. In Regina, -4, and a wind chill of -12.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Shazia Sharif. You are listening to Blue Sky with Leisha Gribinski, 102.5 FM in Treaty 4 around Regina, 94.1 FM in Treaty 6 around Saskatoon, and 5:40 AM all across the province.
Well, Canadians trash about 1 billion pounds of textiles each year, and some of the blame lies with fast fashion and how it's often cheaper to buy something new than to repair or fix it. But when you see images of mountains of clothing, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. There are people, though, right here in Saskatchewan who are taking steps every day to keep clothing and textiles out of the landfill, like Saskatoon's Grell Daru, who started a company shining up sneakers.
To save the environment, reduce waste. You have millions of sneakers going on into the trash because they're dirty and no one knows what to do with them.
Well, it's not just Grell. There are folks all over this province who are fixing, repurposing, and reusing clothing and material and giving it a second life. Today, we'll hear from some of those folks, but we also want to hear from you. What do you try to do to keep clothing out of the landfill? Are you a thrifter? Do you buy quality vintage clothing when you need something new? Maybe you're one of those magicians who can turn scraps into a beautiful quilt. Call us right now and tell us what you do. 1-800-716-2221 or email bluesky@cbc.ca. Well, they just don't make things like they used to, right? How often do you hear that expression? It's especially true when talking about clothing. While good quality clothing is still being made, the market is flooded with cheaply made goods that aren't necessarily meant to last more than a few seasons. And that's why so many people are turning to vintage clothing. Rene Dumont and his wife have been running a vintage clothing business for more than a decade. From hats to spats, we'll have a booth at the Queen City Antique and Vintage Market happening this weekend at the Caledonia Curling Club in Regina. And Rene joins us right now in our Regina studio. Rene, welcome to Blue Sky.
Hello, hello, hello.
This is radio. We also have a live stream on YouTube so people can check you out. I'd like you to be as descriptive as possible and tell us what you're wearing today.
Value Village and garage sale finds. I am wearing shades of beige and brown and a gray sports coat and vintage boots. And I wore a vintage hat into the studio this morning.
Tell me about the hat.
Well, it's Smith built, and it's a beautiful hat. It's black and with a brown feather on the side. And it's a beautiful hat that looks like something a gangster might wear.
You want to hold it up, actually, because then we can get a better view of it on our YouTube feed. So just take a moment as you're talking to me to hold it up and show it to our camera so we can check it out. Why do you wear this stuff, Rene? Why?
Well, I'm an old hand at vintage clothes. I grew up with it. My parents were, I guess, victims of the Depression. My father was a journeyman carpenter, and my mom and my dad raised 8 kids, and so clothes was always an issue. And when we were young, my mother was a manager of a Salvation Army warehouse, and so we had clothes galore. We were the best dressed kids in our school, I think, and there was always clothes. And I grew up with the idea of repurpose, reuse, with clothing ever since I can remember. My parents also started an upholstery shop when I was a little kid, and so I've been in the upholstery business ever since. So they don't. It's hard to buy good furniture nowadays, and so we've been repurposing fabric and furniture and clothing since as far back as I can remember.
And then you decided to make it a bit of a business, right? What made you want to get into selling vintage clothes now?
Well, you know, you can't buy a vintage hat in Regina for the life of you. And vintage clothing too. And it was about 20 years ago, my wife and I went to Winnipeg with our 2 children, Arel and Camille, and we went to Winnipeg, and one of the stops I wanted to make was at a vintage clothing place because I was looking for a swallowtail coat. Now, if swallowtail coat is a type of fancy overcoat, kind of like a tuxedo, and so my wife and Trish and I drove around Winnipeg until we found a really cool men's shop. And when we came back, I said to my wife, gee whiz, there's no place in Regina like this. We need to start a business to sell men's vintage clothes. So it didn't take my wife too long to get into it too, and she got into vintage clothes. My wife was a professional, and she used to spend all kinds of money on clothing. And when we started getting into vintage clothing, she said to me, you know, I don't think I've ever been better dressed in my life since we started with vintage clothing. Mm-hmm. So we live it. We have our business. We do Value Village, the Log House, Salvation Army, garage sales, estate sales, whatever we can to buy vintage clothes. Because of my history with doing repairs, repairs don't scare me at all. So if something needs some buttons or seams to be replaced, that's not a problem with us. So we have lots of stock. We're going to have our show at join with the rest of the vintage people in Regina this weekend. So we have about, maybe 300 hats. We've got maybe almost 1,000 pieces of vintage clothes that we're going to be showing at our sale. So like I said, we live it. And, you know, the thing is that they don't make clothes like they used to. And when old suits, for instance, men's suits, they'd always have a selvage on the inside so it could be taken in and out. And they don't do that anymore. So it's not only a fact of value in clothing that you want to buy with vintage clothing, it's also, though, saving it.
I can totally appreciate that. Just how much, you mentioned the one thing, we can't take things in and out as easily, but how else have you seen the clothing market change since you started? I mean, I guess you've been doing this your whole life.
Yep.
So how have you seen the clothing industry, the market change?
Well, I haven't bought any new clothes in a long, long time, so I can't tell you what it's like to buy new clothes. If for changes in retail clothing, I have no idea. But I know that that the popularity in thrifting and vintage clothes has grown exponentially in the last few years, especially. Some of our customers are from all over the United States, New Zealand, Australia, England. We sell vintage clothes to go all over the place. So interest in clothes, vintage clothing, is sure increased.
So the focus of today really is about.
Right.
It's about fashion, but it's also about keeping textiles out of the landfill. So how do you see yourself and your business helping with that?
Okay, so we took part in an estate sale a couple of weeks ago that we were clued in by one of the antique dealers here in town, phoned and said that they had a whole bunch of vintage clothes. So we went there and we bought, I guess, about, I would say maybe 4 or 5 large garbage bags full of clothes that were destined for the dump. A lot of these clothes were women's clothes from the 60s and 70s. Very, very beautiful, well-made, loud clothes that would be 70s style, but it was all destined for the dump, for the landfill. And we went through it, and we probably were able to save half of it. And it's not only saving it, and saving the environment, because it's a shame now. You turn on the TV and you see all kinds of waste and what it's doing to the planet. But I mean, for the fact of repurposing clothes that somebody went through a lot of work to make these clothes, and so for other people to enjoy it really makes a difference, I think, in the fashion industry, especially. What goes around comes around. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff we sell is really super popular, but it feels really good to be in an industry that is responsible for helping save some of the stuff that goes to the landfill.
Yeah. I love thrifting, Renee. Mm-hmm. When I can find the time to head to a secondhand store, I love it. I don't know if my style's not vintage. I was looking at your suit, and you look good. I'm just wearing kind of basic mom stuff. But for me, when I go thrifting, I just see how much stuff there is that I kind of have the attitude now, there's no need to buy anything new.
But the thing is, when it comes to dressing and decorating and stuff, it's really cool to use conflicting metaphors, to use a really vintage piece with a new piece, Mm-hmm. So that's really in style. One of the things that we can't seem to keep in stock, for instance, is Cowichan sweaters. Now, Cowichan sweaters were really popular when I was, in the 60s and 70s, and everybody seems to be wearing Cowichan sweaters nowadays. So what goes around comes around.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
It is cool.
Also, in the upholstery business, we were able to save a lot of the fabric that was going into the landfill to help quilters and people that do crafts and stuff. So, like I said, it feels good that we were able to help with saving the environment as little as we could do. And if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem, right?
Renee, I'm so glad to have you with us for the whole show today. I'm speaking with Renee Dumont from Hats to Spats Vintage Clothing. I'm going to ask you about Spats later, but I want to go to our next guest because she knows exactly what we're talking about here. For a lot of people, you go through your closet and anything that doesn't work for you anymore, an option may be to drop things off at a secondhand store. Village Green, the Mennonite Central Committee thrift shop in Saskatoon, gets loads and loads of stuff to resell every day, including clothing, but a chunk of what they do receive still ends up in the landfill. So here now to talk about some good donation practices is Michelle Martins. She's the general manager of Village Green. Michelle, welcome to Blue Sky.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I know you sell all sorts of stuff. Our focus today really is on clothes and what we're doing with our textiles and trying to divert them from the landfill. So I'm curious about Village Green and what you get and how you go through and choose what you keep and sell and what you find has to end up in the trash.
Yeah, so I mean, we get hundreds of bags of clothing and other textiles every day. It seems there seems to be a never-ending stream of donations that come in, which is awesome for the thrift business because that's what we rely on to keep our shelves stocked. And but it's a laborious process to go through each bag and to check each item for cleanliness, for stains, for holes, for things like that make it not suitable for sale. And then, to just make sure that we're putting out the best quality and then determining whether something is vintage and it needs to be treated special or if it's, high end, and then authenticating or trying to authenticate high end pieces. You get a Coach purse or a Gucci bag, and is it real or is it imitation? It's all a process, and then getting them out for sale, which is which people come in looking for their treasures.
Mm-hmm. For the stuff that's not going to work to resell, what happens to it?
So we have a few different options. We have a couple of partner agencies that we work with. We also do things like we cut denim squares from all the jeans that are not sellable, so for quilters to make quilts out of. So we do that. We take anything that's 100% cotton and it goes and gets cut for rags that we sell the rags for businesses that are looking for cotton rags for whether it's painting or changing their own piece of machinery or whatever. And then we recycle through the Salvation Army. They do textile recycling. So they bale it all and then they send it to Calgary where it gets graded and sorted and sent on from there. So we use that as well. We also have partnered with Rachel McQueen is a researcher from the University of Alberta who is doing textile research and how to recycle textiles and what sort of things are coming in through the thrift system. So we've been working with her for the last couple of years just to better identify what sort of fabrics and textiles are lasting and which ones are ending up not being sustainable. So
that I just want to jump in because that's a fascinating connection to me. What have you personally learned through that connection about what makes a good lasting material? What should we be saving and what is ending up more likely to be trashed?
The natural fibers, your cottons, those type of things are definitely they hold up better over time. The synthetics, the man-made stuff that the things with lycra in them and stuff, those are the ones that deteriorate faster and are the ones that end up being more likely to destine to the landfill. And I mean, that speaks in some ways to, the vintage versus the fast fashion, right? You think of stuff that was made 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was more natural fibers. And now, everything's polyester and it's lycra and those, unfortunately, the spandex and stuff, we've all experienced it, but it doesn't stand up like the cotton does or the other natural fibers.
Doing this job, what do you think you've learned, especially about just the amount of stuff that people seem to have? What is this showing you about our consumption patterns?
We live in a very disposable society. You see people that just bring you bags of stuff, and sometimes it's really good stuff and sometimes it's all really trash, but it's just people are just they're tired of it or whatever and they're just moving on. And it's crazy how there's just not that thought about that this still has life in it and that I can just continue to use it, but that need to replace and be find the next trend, continue to consume.
Yeah. Has it changed your own shopping habits?
Yeah, it definitely has. I definitely, I was not a thrift shopper before I started working in thrift. I found it very frustrating and almost overwhelming. But now it's definitely, I look first. What do we got? Was there something coming in that can work? What pieces can I supplement my wardrobe with? And then I also, rather than buy the fast and the cheap and the dirty, I'll purchase the quality so that it will last me for years. And then the things that are more disposable, I look thrift first. Because, if I can get a white blouse that I'm going to wear, for the next 2 years, and then I can move on past it because it's already on a second life or a third life.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Michelle, about how to best donate, but can you just hang on the line for a second? I want to check in with our newsreader, David Shield, to find out what's making news, and then we'll come back to you so that we can share some best practices with people, okay?
For sure.
I'm speaking with Michelle Martins, the general manager of Village Green in Saskatoon. I'm Leisha Grabinski. You are listening to Blue Sky here on CBC Radio 1. Let's check in with David, who joins us right now. What's making news?
Well, Saskatchewan teachers are going to be voting on what's being called the province's final offer. The offer includes a wage increase and talks about a framework on classroom size and complexity. The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says it's unhappy with how negotiations went this week and is staying neutral on whether teachers should ratify or not. RCMP are warning drivers to be careful on the roads. Police have received 68 reports of collisions and 8 reports of weather-related traffic hazards during the storm so far. According to Highways Hotline, many highways in the Saskatoon area have poor visibility right now. And an abduction trial heard closing arguments today in Regina. Michael Gordon Jackson failed to return his 7-year-old daughter to her mother in 2021. Jackson says it was to protect her against being vaccinated from COVID-19, but prosecutors say Jackson took the law into his own hands. And I'll have a full newscast for you coming up at 1 o'clock.
All right, David. And I would encourage people to just call our open line if you have a road report that we can pass the information on to others, 1-800-716-2221. I also want to ask you, David, are you a thrifter?
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, not me so much, but my wife goes to thrift stores all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I think I've bumped into her there.
Yeah, I've got 2 kids, and I mean, just the shocking amount of money it takes to clothe 2 kids is just off the charts. No, she's in there all the time looking for stuff, and you can find really good stuff in there occasionally. Like, you can find some absolute garbage, but like, boy,
I always walk away
like very, very good, expensive stuff for super cheap.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but you've got to put in the hours, right?
You do. You've got to put in the effort.
She's
Unless
in
you're
there
going to
all the time.
Unless you're someone who goes more to maybe what Renee is selling, he's one of our guests today, or if you go to a curated shop, then you're not spending. Yeah, then you're not spending as much time. May spend a little bit more money, but it does take time.
Right. Yeah. We are not looking for bespoke items. We are looking for things to clothe yourselves. By the way, one interesting thing that we've noticed is that Albertans seem to not do the Value Village thing at all. Like,
really?
Compared to Saskatchewan? Oh. Yeah. Like, I mean, you talk to an Albertan and they're shocked that you would ever buy secondhand clothing for your children.
Oh, goodness.
I mean,
get with it. Come on,
anyway,
Alberta. Yet another thing to talk about here when it comes to comparisons. Okay, David, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because we did start the show talking about how Calgary's slogan is now Blue Sky City. So if you want to talk about that, you can call our talkback number, 1-800-661-7540. A lot going on today. Let's go back to Michelle Martins, who's the general manager of Village Green in Saskatoon. We did get a call, Michelle. Someone wanted to point out that you're a nonprofit compared to a place like Value Village. That's true, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. We are a not-for-profit, so we're a charitable organization. Which is cool because then we can do some different things, especially on like with furniture and stuff, we actually can issue charitable donation receipts for people who are donating furniture and large items. So gives the donor a little bit of a benefit as well.
Now, I did want to ask you about best practices because you mentioned to me that you get Laura picking up your trash 3 times a week, right? So that does speak to how you get donations. People think they're doing a good thing by donating, but you can't take everything because there hasn't been the thought and care put into the donation. So maybe just share with us what you see that might be a bit eye-opening, and then how people can best donate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing when it comes to donating things is it's got to be clean and in good repair. Just if that jacket that has a broken zipper, or the back is ripped out of it, or the pair of jeans that the butt's been split open on, they're really not a lot of good to anybody. And we try to repurpose as much of that as we can, but unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is what ends up in the trash. And because we do everything from soup to nuts, basically. We have households, we have books, we have toys, that we get a lot of stuff that's just broken. And it's just unfortunate that there's not a way to deal with that beyond just putting it in the trash.
Yeah. So people need to take care of their things before they drop them off, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And, it really helps us out when they are donating, if they are donating things, clothes are great in a garbage bag, a big plastic bag. But when you start putting glass items in there, it's not so great, because they end up more often than not broken, and then contaminate the whole lot, right? So, boxes for breakable things, bags for the textiles is awesome. If it's clean, in good repair, and we'll gladly take it and give it another life.
So good to talk to you today, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Michelle Martins is the general manager of Village Green in Saskatoon. A lot of people sharing their own stories and experiences with this, emails and callers. So Terry writes, "What do I do with our old and worn clothing? Is time-consuming, but so worth it. I have made family legacy rugs for all 7 grandchildren by cutting old shirts and other garments into 1-inch strips, and then sewing the strips together and rolling it into a continuous ball like a ball of yarn. I then crochet 7 24 by 36-inch bedside rugs using a large crochet hook. I have included garments from my parents, husband, adult kids, and their spouses so that the grandkids know their family members love them and are close at hand. It's my past winter projects, and I'm quite proud of the outcomes. I also give articles of clothing to the charities around the city." Sheila, who is with Grandmothers for Grandmothers, writes, "Just want to let you know the group I belong to is helping out in this area too. Grandmothers for Grandmothers Regina is holding a fabric, yarn, and more sale on April 26th and 27th. There's just one donation left this coming Saturday. We accept all sorts of fabric, yarn, notions, and anything else related to sewing, knitting, crocheting, and needlework. Proceeds from our fundraising events go to the Stephen Lewis Foundation's Grandmothers Campaign. They partner with community-led organizations on the ground in 14 sub-Saharan African countries that are hardest hit by the AIDS epidemic. Grandmothers, girls, and other vulnerable persons receive counseling, support with income-generating projects, help to send the children to school, and much more. Many grandmothers have been activists in their own right as they petition their governments for human rights such as land ownership. You can email us to bluesky@cbc.ca or call us 1-800-716-2221. That is what Gayleen in Saskatoon has done. Gayleen is on the line right now. Hi, Gayleen.
Hi.
You're a thrifter.
I am. I tell you, I would be at the Caledonia curling rink if I could this weekend. 300 hats. That would be heaven.
I know, right? Why are you drawn to thrifting?
Because of the price of clothes. And also, it's hard to find, especially at a reasonable price, it's hard to find quality, which I've started looking mostly for natural fibers because I don't like the polyesters. They're not nice. And my favorite places to thrift are Village Green and Underground Trends.
Underground Trends?
Yeah, they're in Market Mall. I don't go to Valley Village anymore because They're just too pricey.
You're not the first person to say that. So, Gayleen, I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much, and happy thrifting.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. We've got another person on the line who is doing her part. Lon Cola runs the Instagram account Do More Good. And this week she's been promoting a recycling program for your socks with the brand Smartwool, and she joins us right now. Lon, welcome to Blue Sky.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I found this intriguing. What exactly is this? How does this sock recycling program work?
So we've all got socks, right, that are worn out, have holes in them. They don't have a match. And Smartwool now has a program where you can send in your socks to them and they'll make new socks out of them. All you have to do is get a shipping label and you can mail them to them for free.
They'll take all socks, like my Costco socks, my Walmart socks, not just Smartwool socks?
Right. Any brand, any material. So it's pretty awesome. They've turned 55,000 pounds of perfectly good material that would have just went to the landfill into new socks.
So why is that important to you personally?
I think anytime we can keep stuff out of the landfill is awesome. Like circular anything is great. And we need these brands to step up and do things like this and make products out of things that we would just throw away.
How do people actually donate them? You know, I think the idea of a drop-off point is just easy for people to wrap their heads around. They if you don't know where to take something, then sometimes it can feel a little bit too challenging. And so, how do people do this?
Totally. So we don't have a drop-off point in Saskatoon. There are in other cities. But all you have to do is go on the Smartwool website and you just click that you want to donate your socks and they'll send you a prepaid shipping label. You package them up in a box or shipping envelope, and then you take them to Purolator. So it's pretty simple. I've put the link on my Do More Good if anyone's interested in doing it.
This information is kind of a gift, Lon, because I've got this bag of like baby socks. My kids are no longer babies, but I didn't have it in me to throw it away. I was like, there's got to be something I can do with these. Maybe I'll craft with them, but they're still sitting there. So perhaps this is the program I've been waiting for, and I can't be the only one. How else are you keeping textiles out of the landfill? Like I know your Instagram account is about doing more good and doing more good for the planet. And so how else are you keeping textiles out of the landfill?
For me, it's just not buying as much. You know, I'm trying to have a low buy year. I'm trying to, every time I need something, look secondhand first. And this year I'm actually challenging myself to only buy 5 new items this year. It's the Rule of 5 challenge. So and I included shoes, I included jewelry, and I included clothing. So I'm pretty excited about it. I've only bought 1 new thing so far, so I'm doing pretty good.
You started this in January?
I did, yeah. And so it's only new items, but I think also it's good to mention that just because I'm letting myself buy secondhand items, you shouldn't go crazy on secondhand either, because that's just consuming, and that ends up in the landfill eventually as well.
Right. You also have kids. What's it like with kids trying to do stuff like this?
Yeah, I have three young kids, and basically everything they get is secondhand. There's just too much good stuff out there to even need to buy new. You know, kids only wear it for a little bit and people donate it. So there's no sense buying new for them. And they grow out of things so quickly as well.
Mm-hmm. What kind of an impact do you think you're making? You know, like as a family, you're making some choices. So what kind of an impact are you making as a family, but then also by helping spread the word?
Yeah, I think it's catching on. You know, the more you talk about it, the more, you know, talking to your friends, talking to your family about secondhand, about buying less, I think it catches on. And that's basically the reason why I started my my Instagram page. I really just think, you know, switching these little things you do every day can really make a big impact. They seem like really small things, but if many people do them, it's going to be a large positive impact at the end of it.
I know you have something in the works, a new business that's helping, that you hope will help keep things out of the landfill. Do you want to just give us the 15, 20-second sneak peek of what you're up to?
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be called Reroute. We're hoping to launch at the end of the month. And it's basically a pickup service for busy people to try divert more things from the landfill. So household hazardous waste, things that there's programs for that don't go in your blue bin, your bottle recycling, and also donations. We want to pick up people's donations instead of leaving them in your car saying you'll take them for 5 months. We'll pick them up for you, but we'll take them directly to people in need. So those winter jackets go to someone who doesn't have one, that sort of thing.
I think I have some donations that have been in my car 5 months. So, Lon, thank you. Keep us posted, okay?
For sure. Thanks for having me.
That is Lon Cola, who runs the Instagram account Do More Good. Now, Taylor Cross is the owner of 7 Sundays in downtown Saskatoon. That store carries some sustainable brands, also secondhand finds that are hand-picked by Taylor, but they also offer something different, custom tailoring of their vintage jeans. So I stopped by the store to talk with Taylor.
So yeah, this is our vintage denim wall. It's a constant revolving door because of how popular it is. So we have all of our blue denim along this wall, but we also don't just do custom denim, we do custom trousers as well. So even, you know, men's workwear like this, we can tailor this to a size 30, 35 girl, and it turns from an old thrifted pair of men's trousers to a fitted pair of trousers for a lady. So I source anywhere from men's 30 to men's 46 denim. And we do that so that anyone, almost anyone of any shape and size can come into the store and get a pair tailored down to them.
Try them on and...
Yeah, so we would start off by like figuring out what kind of wash and style you like. I would ask you typically like what type of jeans do you normally wear? And then from there I would kind of gauge based on your color, style, preference, what your end goal is for the denim. Our girls would pick a couple pairs, try them on, and then from there it would kind of just be trial and error. We would measure you up, clip them in certain places, and once we find the perfect pair, then we're good to go.
So you're keeping denim out of the landfill?
Yes.
And
yes.
How important is that to you?
Very important, yeah. Shopping secondhand and sustainable is really important to us. Even the brands that we carry are all sourced from sustainable places, and keeping the secondhand market a revolving door. And you know, people don't go thrifting every day and see like the beautiful pieces that they can find secondhand. So bringing them to our beautiful space and marketing them in a way that makes secondhand, vintage, thrifted, whatever you want to call it, clothing exciting again. And yeah, putting a little bit of a twist on it has been really successful for us. And people love shopping sustainable. People just don't always love, you know, going out and sourcing it themselves. So
and it doesn't always fit.
Which
is the difference with your denim. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll go into a secondhand store with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't fit you, you can't wear it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're doing your part for the environment?
I think so. We try our best. Yeah. I mean, it's giving pieces new life again. It's so easy to go into a secondhand store, go to a thrift store, or support a local vintage store when they're going to the place before all of these clothes are sent to the landfill to pick out the best high quality pieces and give them new life again. Because a lot of the time there's nothing wrong with the clothing, you know, it's better than what you would find at the mall sometimes. Or, you know, we have some tags in here that it's like handmade by so-and-so's grandma, and each piece is so, you know, has so much life and like history behind it, and you can really feel that. So being able to showcase that in a space unlike anything that Saskatoon has ever seen is important to us, and we're just gonna keep going.
Is the owner of 7 Sundays in downtown Saskatoon. She was telling me how the last Sunday of the month they bring in some people from the city and allow others to shop their closet. So it's another way to kind of keep things moving from one person to another before it ends up in the landfill. I'm Leisha Gravinsky. You are listening to Blue Sky here on CBC Radio 1. We're also streaming live on YouTube. You can find us by going to CBC Saskatchewan on YouTube. Now, another one of the vendors at this weekend's Queen City Antique and Vintage Market is Cheryl Wall. She runs Prairie Wool and Fiber Designs. Hello, Cheryl. Welcome to Blue Sky. Oh, do we have Cheryl on the line? Hello.
Yes, I'm here. Can
There
you
you
hear
are.
me?
I sure can, and you sound
Okay.
great. Great to have
All
you
right.
on the show. You're at the same event that Renee, our first guest, he was talking all about what they'll be doing, Renee Dumont, and so you're going to be there too. And of course, we're talking about preventing textiles from ending up in the landfill. So how does that relate to what you do?
Well, I make practical and useful items from repurposed wool clothing. For instance, mittens. I make mittens from wool sweaters that I purchase from thrift stores throughout the city, sometimes also on Facebook Marketplace.
And are you looking for a particular quality of sweater before you turn them into mittens?
Yes, I use the thicker ones, and obviously I look for ones that are in good repair so that I don't have to waste a lot of it. But sometimes if the price is right, I'll buy them anyway and use what I can.
What do you like about working with that material and with wool?
Okay, well, wool, like I'm a fan, like some of your other guests have said, I'm a fan of the natural fibers. Even for the clothing that I wear, I prefer the natural fibers. And wool is warmer than acrylic or polyester. So for Saskatchewan winters, woolen mittens are much warmer than something you can buy that's acrylic. And the natural properties of wool also make it that it doesn't feel wet when it does get wet.
Right, because they're going from one purpose to another, right? What the purpose that a sweater serves, obviously you need something different with, you're trying to keep your hands dry when you're outside in the snow. Why did you want to do this? Why were you drawn to turning something, a textile, into something else?
Well, about 8 years ago, my sister who lives on Vancouver Island, and maybe they were ahead of us in this trend, but she gave me a pair of these mittens, and I've been a sewer my whole life, so sewing them wasn't daunting for me. So I love the mittens. They were the warmest that I'd ever had. So I thought, maybe I'll just buy a couple of sweaters and see what happens. Well, they sold immediately, so that's how my business started, with making wool mittens. After I retired.
After you retired, that's the thing. These things are often time consuming. I always have grand plans. I took a sewing lesson, and I was taking scraps of material that I purchased from Village Green. We talked to them earlier on the show, and I was attempting to turn them into bookmarks. And so that was my way of reusing some material. But then I haven't really done that since December because I haven't had time. So I appreciate people like you who are putting in the time to make use of stuff like this. Has the demand kept up? What kind of demand is there for your products?
Yeah, the demand hasn't gone down. I think that people realize the quality of these mittens over some of the store-bought mittens. I don't want to put them all in that category, but they last longer. So I guess that's one way of keeping things out of the landfill, is these are more durable. And I put patches of leather on the fingers and thumbs. The leather is also repurposed from leather jackets. So that helps them to be more durable. They don't wear out so fast.
And as someone, Cheryl, who does have that skill, you obviously can sew. Do you find yourself fixing clothing instead of just throwing it away? I am wondering how important those skills are.
Well, our own clothing I fix for sure. If it's fixable, I fix it. But I don't do it for other people as a business. There are great people out there, though, that do that, fix clothing for others.
Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Cheryl. So thank you so much for being with us. I know you'll be at the event with Renee, who we're going to talk to a bit more here. So thanks again for being one of our guests today.
Thank you.
It's inspiring. Maybe I'll pull out the sewing machine at some point. If it stays snowy, I'll start sewing again.
Well, the creativity is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it really is. Cheryl, thank you.
Thank you.
That is Cheryl Wall, who runs Prairie Wool and Fiber Designs. She's one of the vendors that will be at the Queen City Antique and Vintage Market happening this Friday and Saturday at the Caledonia Curling Club in Regina. That is where Renee Dumont will be. But before we talk again with him, I want to share this email from Darla, who writes from Gravelburg. I don't shop for clothes often, but I went shopping yesterday because I needed pants. My first stop was a thrift store. My second stop was a consignment store. And then when I still hadn't found what I needed, I went went to a traditional retail store. I chose cotton over other fabrics and do my best to assess the quality of the garment. My mother is someone who's skilled at sewing. She has hemmed and repaired our family's clothing for decades. Now that I have my own children, I'm trying to learn how to repair clothing. So far, I have used iron and stick-on patches to prolong the life of their clothing, usually the knees. I am intrigued by the art of visible mending I have seen on social media and hope to learn one day. Yeah, Darla, you and me both. Renee, you've been hearing all of this, and you also have those skills. Are you finding that more and more people are becoming interested in finding ways to mend and repair their clothing? What do you think, Renee?
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that too much. I know that like I said, vintage clothing is making a comeback, and it's very popular all over the place. I am in touch with repurposing wool. I've been knitting ever since I was a kid. I was about maybe 6 or 7 years old. My mom she took a sweater apart and she was making slippers. And I said, boy, are those ever nice slippers? She said, sit down. I'll show you how to do it. So I've been knitting since I was a little kid. Right now I'm knitting my a toque at home. So repurposing is cool. Being in the upholstery business, I have quite a few sewing machines, and I know sewing is really popular and a good sewing machine sells. So I'm glad that people are into sewing.
It is such a handy skill to have, and I think step one in trying to keep things out of the landfill. I also have kids like Darla, and the knees on some of those pants, they go pretty quickly, and the jeans and the pants are in perfectly good shape except for those knees. So if we can patch them, all the better for it, right? Vintage clothes for sure having a moment. How much of that would you attach to social media, shops like Etsy? There are so many ways now to buy vintage clothing. What role do you think social media has played in that?
Huge. We when we started the shop, Hats to Spats, we had pop-up sales, and our first 2 or 3 were really popular, and then I guess people started getting used to seeing us around, and so we started selling online, and it has made a huge difference. We sell our store is basically online. We sell on Etsy and Value and Virage sale, but Etsy was a game changer for us. People, like I said, our customers are from all over the world. We sell everything from linens to lingerie and hats to sweaters and suits. Men's wool coats are really, really popular. You can't buy a nice men's wool coat without spending $1,000 nowadays, and we can sell them for around $100, between $100 and $200. So the online thing was a huge thing for us, for our business.
Okay, we're almost out of time. I haven't asked you what spats are. I Googled it, but tell people hats and spats. What are we talking about?
Well, when my wife and I started this business, we were looking for a name, and I was trying to think of something from head to toe because we have everything from head to toe. So I thought a hat and what's on your feet. So I was trying to sew head to shoes. Well, a spat is a cover that they used to wear at the turn of the century to cover your boots, to keep your boots clean, because in the old days, all the streets were dirt and mud. So you'd have a cloth cover on your boot with a strap that fit underneath by your heel and buttons up the side. They were called spats. So Hats to Spats was a perfect name for us, and we've been running with it since.
But have you sold any spats?
Yes, we do have a few pairs of spats. We probably have half a dozen pairs of spats. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. This obviously makes you quite happy. Hey, Renee?
Yes. Well, I'm an old timer. I'm kind of one of these old world people. I write poetry and songs, and I draw and paint and knit and everything. So anything that's repurposing, from clothing to music, anything that's is my game.
I've heard you yodel.
Have you?
Can you take us out?
How's that?
Oh my gosh. Well, you just made my day.
There you go.
Renee, so good to talk to you today. Have a great
Likewise.
time
Thank you
at
very
the
much.
market. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
You very much. Bye-bye.
Rene Dumont and his wife Trish run From Hats to Spats Vintage. They are one of the vendors that will be at the Queen City Vintage Market happening this Friday and Saturday at the Caledonia Curling Club in Regina. If you want to see that yodeling, we'll be putting up this YouTube stream so you can watch it on demand. There was a lot to see, right? We did a show and tell of 7 Sundays, that store in downtown Saskatoon that tailors jeans to fit you just right, vintage jeans. So you can find that on our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube page. You can also find just the audio on demand. I was almost yodeling there on CBC Listen. Now, coming up tomorrow on the show, we're talking about community radio and how it plays an important role in Saskatchewan. I mean, where else would you hear Spanish, Persian, Dene, language programming? On the next Blue Sky, we're checking in with community radio stations in Regina, Saskatoon, and Beauval. We'll hear about some of the unique challenges and opportunities that come with running community radio stations in 2024. And so we'll meet some of the volunteer hosts, and we also want to hear from you so you can join the conversation between 12 and 1 right here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great afternoon and check the highway hotline before heading out the door today.